Ladies and gentlemen,
wrestling has more than one royal family.
I am my kingdom! I am my kingdom!
Jeff and I have talked this before on this show, how when wrestling companies do resets, you could say that WWF did a reset, or at least went back to the well once too often, as Jesse Ventura or Gorilla Monsoon might say, when they went back to Hulk Hogan after WrestleMania 9, and Yokozuna had beaten, Bret Hart, and then Hogan won that title back in a minute and a half or something after that show was over. And we've talked about how Impact has gone back to, had in the past, they actually did two separate resets where they moved Jeff Jarrett back to being a world champion, and AJ Styles by being a X Division champion, and of course moved American, I can't even think of their name right now, but Chris Harris and James Storm back to being a tag team from
America's
Most Wanted. That's right. How the hell could I forget that? And of course, WWE has also done it recently, the last few years, by over and over again trying to sell us on Roman Reigns being the guy to beat Brock Lesnar. So earlier this year, when New Japan Pro Wrestling did it by putting the world title back on Okada, putting the Intercontinental title back on Tetsuya Naito, putting the tag titles back on GOD, I just wasn't into it. And that's why I didn't go crazy over what was reportedly a very, very good, if not absolutely great, all-time great G1 Climax, because I just had soured a bit on the product. I didn't want to see a rehash. And the guys that I thought should be moving up the card just weren't. And yet, here we are to review the post-G1 offering from New Japan Pro Wrestling at Royal Quest the same night as All Out. And we're going to find out tonight if my opinions have changed on that at all. How you doing tonight, Jeff?
I'm doing pretty good. I don't know if this is really a great show to see if your opinions are going to change, considering it's a kind of a cross motion with Evolve. Or not, I'm sorry, not Evolve, but Progress.
Rev Pro.
One of them. One of those British ones.
Well, that's technically true. How many Rev Pro talents were actually on the show, Jeff?
There's quite a few.
No, there was two.
There's more than two.
Two.
There was Zach, the Aussie Open. Minoru Suzuki is technically, considering he's still a tag team champion with ZSJ.
Okay, who were Zack Sabre Jr. and Minoru Suzuki under contract to? Who was Will Ospreay and Phantasmo under contract to?
ZSJ is under contract to both.
How can you be under contract to both? I don't even think that's legally possible.
Tell that to John Moxley. Because he's doing it right now with AEW and New Japan.
Okay, so how many actual talents that are regularly featured, mostly on Rev Pro, were on the show?
Just 3.
I would say
Counting
just Aussie Open. I mean, I suppose Phantasmo you could probably say, just because he is their cruiserweight champion.
And ZSJ was their heavyweight champion, so. And
I guess
ZSJ and Suzuki are their tag team champions.
NJPW more. I guess I consider them NJPW talents, but I guess technically you're correct. My overall point is, if this was really a cross-promoted show, we would see a lot. We would have seen a lot more guys from Rev Pro proper than we actually saw on this show.
I don't know if they really have a roster. Not a huge roster, because a lot of them are independents.
Well, if they don't have a roster, then they're no better than PWG as far as not being a promotion, but really being a super indie.
I'm just kind of looking them up now, so.
Okay. Well, anyway, we'll get into that later on. Anyway, you and I. So I'm going to switch gears while you're looking that stuff up, and if you want to interrupt me, that's fine too. But you and I spoke briefly early last week, I think it was. After I got back to work after my trip to Chicago and stuff, and we were talking about how. Whether AEW needs more bodies to fill its roster or not. I think you and I have slightly different philosophies on this. You think that, they have a 2-hour show going on, and how are they going to even fit the guys that they have right now on a 2-hour show weekly? And I kind of think that one of the things that kills wrestling companies is when you're seeing the same talent on there every single week. So I think that there's room for kind of a mismatch of those two styles, and therefore there's room to put guys on there, plus you're always going to want to be getting fresh talent on there. That said, there's a couple of people that I think you and I completely agree that if AEW has a chance to sign, they have to sign them. And those two people are Tessa Blanchard and Taya Valkyrie.
Mm-hmm.
They have to sign Taya Valkyrie, even if they have to sign John Hennigan to get her. She's just that good of a female star, and she automatically brings credibility to that division. Our buddy Ryan Evans texted us earlier this week and said, if Tom Lawler leaves MLW, would we want him in AEW? And my immediate response to that, and it continues to be my response to it, is I don't even want to contemplate him leaving MLW. That's where he belongs. That's where he has gotten his rise in the wrestling business. They kind of fit each other. I really don't want to see him leave. But if he is going to leave, then I think he does fill a niche in AEW that they don't have right now, which is that kind of that MMA type of guy. Like Ken Shamrock was, or Dan Severn was, or CM Punk was to a point in WWE. I think they could use him and use him well. But I would have to say that in watching this Evolve show this weekend, I saw one guy that they absolutely positively need on their roster because to me he's unique to anybody in professional wrestling. Do you have any idea who I'm talking about?
I think that I do, and that's that Anthony Gutierrez. No, not Anthony Gutierrez.
Anthony Gutierrez. Yeah.
Or who are you talking about then? I might have gone guy. Because Anthony Gutierrez was the MMA guy that, destroyed his opponent in seconds.
Yeah, but there's other MMA guys out there. To me, the guy that absolutely AEW should try to sign if he's not under contract with Evolve is the guy that won the 6-man freestyle, and that's Brandon Taggart.
Really?
He's like a modern-day version of One Man Gang, and he just is an absolute dominant physical specimen. He's got a great look to him, and he fits a role that AEW does not have right now. Other than, most of their guys are kind of a smaller stature, so he fits that kind of beast-type mode that they could really use on their roster right now.
I couldn't get into him. I just couldn't buy into him at all. He annoyed me from the moment he walked out, and I was shocked that he actually won the match. I thought that was going to be a showcase for either Stephen Wolf or GPA. And it seemed like it was going to be. And then when Taggart won it, I was really taken aback going, what?
That's interesting that you said that he annoyed you when he came out. So what about him did you find annoying?
His look, his voice, the way he was screaming at the audience sounded like a 14-year-old prepubescent boy. He just didn't tick any box that made me want to see the guy again. I didn't like the way he was wearing like what looked like tattered clothing, and he kept it on throughout the entire match. You know, it looked like he was wearing a rip.
You found him annoying, but you wanted him to strip during the match. That is very.
I wanted him to at least take that damn jacket off. I thought his hair was, even down to his hair, I didn't like anything about this guy.
Wow, it's amazing how he does such totally different things with this guy. Because to me, yeah, I mean, he's green. He's got, you know, maybe you give him a mouthpiece because of his voice, but I think his look was fantastic. I think his size and agility is amazing for his size, and I think he just has that ability to be, you know, just a beast that you have with these guys go out there and try to slay.
Maybe I'm just numb to it because all 300-pounders are supposed to move like that now. You know, it's you don't get.
But he didn't go like flying over the ropes and things like that.
No, he didn't.
That's the other thing is he was a very disciplined big guy.
Yeah, I guess I can kind of see where you saw something in him. I mean, there were a couple guys on this that, one guy that I'm glad did sign a contract, and a couple more that I really want to see sign a contract soon. But I didn't see it with Brandon Taggart. Maybe I have to see more of his matches, but I did not see it with him.
Yeah, well, this is the first time I've ever seen him, and I looked at that guy and I was like, wow, that's a guy that needs to be signed somewhere now.
Well, it wasn't like the first time we saw the Rascals, you know, and we both said there's two guys on that Rascals team that are like future superstars. Yeah. You know, it wasn't like when we saw Austin Theory the last time we saw this and went, that dude is a superstar in the making. I didn't get that feeling out of Brandon Taggart. I got it out of a couple of other guys. One guy that I really didn't have it with last time, I kind of got it on this show, with his, you know, he winning his match that was just ridiculous, and then his heel turn. Anthony Henry looks to have a really good future. Oh,
yeah, absolutely.
And the other guy that I really, really liked is who the hell was the guy? He was on part of the Skull. AR Fox is another guy that I really, really liked.
Really, you get into that guy? Because to me, he's just, I don't know. He's generic indie wrestler number 7 to me.
I didn't like the fact that he kept being referred to with old WWE slang. There were, and I can't remember a couple of the nicknames now, but there were a couple of nicknames that Lenny Leonard threw out there for him that were stolen straight from WWE guys, and they literally made me go, "What? Come on!"
Well, I know they call him like the human highlight reel and things like that on there.
Yeah, there was something else. The human highlight reel was one of them, but there was something else that was like, I went, "No, that's not him. That's this guy," and I can't remember what the nickname was now.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this is, I think, the third time I've seen him now, and we saw him on this show, we saw him on the Evolve 10th anniversary special, and then there was another Evolve show from earlier in the year I saw him, and to me, he's just what you expect a generic indie flying guy to do, you know?
Yeah, I guess I can see that. I mean, Drew Gulak was his normal greatness. Austin Theory just continues to impress me every time I see him. I still am a huge fan of Brandy Lauren, and Anthony Henry were the guys that really stuck out to me as people that pretty much held their own in this show. I mean, maybe it was the fact that AR Fox was kind of getting most of his offense off against Matt Riddle. Maybe that's why he looked better than I thought he did, because Matt Riddle was bumping like a madman for him. But I don't know. I was impressed with him where I haven't been before. I've never been impressed with him before, but this one, for some reason, I was.
Cool.
And of course, Stephen Wolf was great too. So was GPA and Craig Mitchell. They were great in that 6-man. I thought Stephen Wolf was going to kill himself when he did that shooting star press into the 3 inches of space between the ring and the barricade. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Could they have gotten those any closer?
Well, they got to fit all those people into that high school gym or wherever they were wrestling at, you know.
Yeah, that makes sense, but still, Jesus.
Yeah, and there was, and the guys like GPA, he definitely has some promise, but to me, he's right where he belongs right now. I mean, definitely needs at least a couple more years of seasoning.
He needs some more charisma. He needs a little more seasoning on his ring presence and his charisma. He's technically
you can't teach charisma, dude.
sound. No, but you can bring it out. I mean, look at Adam Cole. Adam Cole had some charisma, but nothing like he has now. When you get the right coaching, you can get people to bring it out. Same thing with Kyle O'Reilly. I never thought of Kyle O'Reilly as being charismatic, but he certainly is now in NXT.
Yeah, he's got a super cocky charisma to him now in NXT. It's kind of amazing.
Well, and I love his little.
That's a match I meant to watch in the last couple of weeks, and I haven't watched it, which is the rematch between them and not Private Party, but the Street Profits for the tag straps.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen that one yet either.
Yeah. I texted you over the weekend that this show was more enjoyable to me than the last 3 takeovers. I was including NXT Takeover UK on this, but I really enjoyed this show.
Yeah, and I had some issues with that. I mean, I liked it. I thought it was fun. There was some great things that come out of this, but I didn't like it. I liked it better than NXT UK. I will say that. I did not like it better than the 2 NXTs before that, though.
Yeah, well, you were in love with that takeover that
NXT.
Which one was that one? The one that
25.
Yeah, NXT Takeover 25. You were in love with that show. So
yeah, because that's one of the rare times when.
Go ahead.
That's one of the rare times when every single match spoke to me.
Right.
And that happens so rarely that when you get it, it kind of sticks out. This one, I mean, this was a 2-hour show, and I felt like they had too many matches on. I mean, you don't want every match to go 25 minutes to a half an hour, but I think they could have fleshed out a few of these and maybe gotten rid of some of them. Like, I don't know that the Anthony Gutierrez versus Jimmy Carrot was necessary, or the Anthony Green versus Paco was really necessary. I think they could have let a couple of these other matches go a little bit longer and gotten rid of those.
The only thing good about the Anthony Green versus Paco one is that we got to see even more of Brandy Lauren.
Right, and that's about it. But I'm not into Anthony Green yet. I cannot get into that retro AG crap. Mm-hmm. I'm not a fan of his.
And of course you didn't like the result of the freestyle match the way as much as I did, so that probably could have swayed your opinion a bit on it too. But,
that's possible.
And I would say that my 2 criticisms of the show would be that I feel like when you're bringing in a team that has the reputation, although I personally have never seen them, of the besties in the world, and then you bring in the Unwanted to kind of make a match and then limit their involvement in the match, you're kind of missing something there. I mean,
not only that, but
they got in there and didn't have to lose the match, but you also didn't see a hell of a lot from them.
No, and you gave the win to probably the least of the 3 teams too, and with the Skulk winning it.
Your members, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I get it. They were going up against the Unwanted's junior members, but it was still the fact that the besties in the world, which they've got a lot of hype to them. Crowd loved them. But you're right. They didn't get they didn't get anything out of that match.
Right,
they really did.
I mean, if I'm booking this, I'd probably have besties in the world win, and then the Skulk and the want to just beat the shit out of each other back to the locker room or something.
Yeah, and that would have made more sense.
And then my other criticism with it is, you've got a triple threat match for your Evolve World Championship, along with a super huge heel turn at the end of it for your promotion, and yet the NXT, I'm sorry, not the NXT, but the WWE Cruiserweight title is what's main eventing your show.
Yeah, I agree too.
I really did not like that at all.
I thought that those 2 matches should have been flipped.
That's kind of the same criticism that we had of the last Evolve show too. Is you're having your Evolve 10th anniversary special. You're combining your 2 world championships, and yet it's the semi-main to the NXT title match.
Yeah, and I mean, I do kind of get why they did that with, Gulak especially. because he is a former Evolve guy and he's a big name with WWE now. So they're selling that as their main event, and that's what they did in the last one too. But I do agree in both of them. I think Austin Theory should have headlined them both shows that we saw.
Yeah, absolutely, and it would have been kind of a make good for the 10th anniversary special too.
Right, and that kid is so good. Austin Theory is just so talented.
Yeah, absolutely, and I mean, he's you hope that his ceiling is as high as what it looks like he is. It is, because he is so young, and he's grasped so much already, and he's so amazing that you hope that you're looking at the next Seth Rollins or something at the very least, and the next major superstar at the highest level.
The thing that I have that we really have in his favor is the fact that he doesn't have a name yet. He's not coming in from Impact like EC3 did. He's not coming in from Ring of Honor like some other guys have, or New Japan or whatever. He's coming in from basically their pre-performance center. And he's basically a W.
Now that NXT is going to be on the USA Network, Evolve is basically, along with Progress, their
performance center. Their
minor league.
Yeah, and it's awesome. I loved his pre-match promo where he, the only guy that can make decisions for him is William Regal, and if Anthony Henry doesn't get out of the ring, he's just going back to the PC. He doesn't care. I just loved the way his attitude throughout that. I love the way that he kept rolling out of the ring and climbing under the ring, and just his heel work is so beyond the years, so beyond the 22 years old he is.
Yeah, and all three guys really impressed me in this one. I mean, I love JD Drake. I should say all four guys, because Anthony Henry's performance at the end of it was strong as well. But and with Josh Briggs, I mean, I love where he's announced as being from, or the way that he's announced, or his nickname, or whatever the hell you want to call it. But it's there's a good chance he doesn't like you. Yeah,
that's it. That's right up there with the Private Party's announcement of being the 417 ounces of cranberry vodka. I enjoy that one as well. So, but yeah, there's chances are he doesn't like you is one of my favorites. Yeah, and he's got good size. I'm not overly impressed with his in-ring movement. JD Drake, for the size he is, and the fact that people just are drawn to him, it was impressive. But Josh Briggs, I'm not 100% sold on yet. But Austin Theory is he's sickening how good he is.
I
just
think
absolutely sickening.
Add some upper body mass to him. I think if he added 15, 20 pounds of upper body mass, he'd be more impressive than he is.
Maybe that's it. Maybe his size just doesn't fit what he's trying to bring.
And I hardly ever talk about a wrestler's size, but I mean, to me, he doesn't look as impressive as he really should at his with what he's trying to do out there.
Right, yeah, with the way that they're playing him off, he should be another 3 inches higher and probably 25, 30 pounds heavier. He just doesn't look like the kind of big badass that they're trying to. He kind of reminds me a lot of Baron Corbin in NXT.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Where they're trying to sell him as this big badass, but he just doesn't look like a big badass. Now somehow they got him over as a big badass when he went up to SmackDown, so maybe someday they can bring him to WWE and make him into like they did with Baron Corbin, but I just don't see it right now.
Yeah, and I would one more guy I just want to say something about, and he was the guy that Taggart had the big battles with in their match, but I was right with the crowd and not giving a shit about Karam.
Yeah, I didn't either. He was another one too. He was like the one guy in that entire match where I was like, what? And he did nothing to stand out. He was just kind of the vanilla background. I don't know. But I seriously,
No,
I thought.
he feels like the kind of guy that WWE went out and scouted, and they're like, okay, so you can't do anything yet, but you might be something someday. So here,
We'll throw you in
Evolve,
here.
do us a favor, and develop him for us.
Right. I like the Kurt Stallion Matt Riddle pairing. I think that's a fun tag team. And who was it that Lenny Leonard was it Matt Riddle and Kurt Stallion, or was it Matt Riddle and Leon Ruff? Were two guys that have never had a bad day in their life, they just can't stop smiling. That was a pretty good line by.
It was Matt Riddle and
I think it was Leon Ruff.
yeah, it was. You're right. It was Leon Ruff. Yep.
Because he's saying that neither guy can ever stop smiling. I just thought that was a good line by him, and I can't say enough about Anthony Henry either. I loved his match, the whole no holds barred match, the way that he, brought in Arturo Ruas at the end to, kind of make peace with him after he finally got the win over him. I loved his performance at the beginning and the end of the triple threat match. Anthony Henry might have been the best part of this entire show.
Yeah, he was great. And we didn't really talk about his match much, but he and Arturo Ruas had a no holds barred match that was really more of a street fight type of match, but it was a street fight in the sense that there was no countouts, no disqualifications, not in the sense that they're throwing each other through tables or hitting each other with ladders or pulling out the barbed wire. They just had, like a knockdown, drag out, almost like bare knuckle type fight where they were just beating the living hell out of each other. And
Yeah, I think the only spot that included any kind of prop was when Ruas put Henry into that merch table.
Right. Yeah, I forgot about that spot.
Other than that, you're right. There wasn't a single prop through the entire match. It was just them.
Yeah, the only other one was really like the barricade.
Yeah, but that's a part of every match. It's and it was right there. How could they not use it? It was only like 6 inches away the entire night.
Yeah, I mean, and it's kind of funny because like this match was going, and then I was like, well, this is kind of just like a boring fight, and then as it has progressed, I'm like, no, these guys are telling a really good story. And
Yeah, they were.
And where like these guys don't necessarily hate each other, but they do have a personal issue with each other because the first time that they fought each other, they battled to a no disqualification, and this time, it was made a no holds barred match because they had battled to a no disqualification, and they wanted to see who the better man was. And Ruas had been kind of mowing through everybody else in Evolve, and here, it was basically they were basically even throughout most of it, and then it just happened that Henry was able to get the cradle in the middle, the cradle just a little bit enough away from the ropes that Ruas couldn't grab the ropes and he couldn't kick out. So we still don't really have necessarily a definitive winner here, but definitely these guys really worked it in this one.
Oh yeah, they did. And then that was probably my favorite match of the night too. I mean, I really liked the work that Austin Theory did, and of course, Drew Gulak is Gulak. Kushida doesn't look like the same wrestler that he did earlier this year or was it last year? Has he been out of NJPW for almost a year now, since January?
I think since Wrestle Kingdom, yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't look like the same guy he was towards the end of last year. I don't know if he's put on weight. I don't know if he's hampered by the American style. I don't know, but he does not look like the same guy.
No, I mean, we also knew that he was, he's also kind of left NJPW because they weren't going to give him the shot that he wanted, which was to be a heavyweight.
And now he's on 205 Live.
And so he kind of figured, I've done everything I can here as a junior heavyweight. So I'm going to go see what other opportunities are available for me elsewhere.
And then he signs his contract with NXT and spends a hiccup in NXT before he's on 205 Live. That's hilarious.
Well, that's true, but you also have to consider the fact that, what else was there left for him to do in NJPW? I mean,
no, I get that, but
even if he's wrestling cruiserweights in WWE, he still has more opportunity than just being in the junior heavyweight division in in NJPW. I mean, look at the guys currently in WWE, especially like Buddy Murphy, who went from being a tag team wrestler in NXT to being also ran on 205 Live to being a star and then the champion in 205 Live, and now he's in the he's a fixture kind of in the mid card right now on SmackDown. So I mean, it's not like 205 Live is the purgatory that it was for Pac.
Well, and I suppose Ali was another one that kind of came in and really tore things up until he got injured.
Yeah.
So I guess you're right. He does have a shot to move on, and Ali was wrestling for, the heavyweight title or the world championship there at the beginning of the year too. So. Yeah,
and he kind of it's actually funny because he kind of facilitated Kofi Kingston's push to the championship. If Ali hadn't gotten injured, Kofi Kingston may have not gotten the current sniff he's getting.
Yep, because he probably would not have been in that 6-man match and gotten that huge reaction. And basically, that 6-man match, he literally just, filled in for Ali. From what my understanding was that was supposed to be Ali's coming out match, where he was the one who was the Iron Man. Mm-hmm. And Kofi literally just got his spot, just took his spot. Yep. And ran with it. He ran with it, and Kofi is a much better wrestler than Ali is at this point in their career, and Ali's going to have his time in the sun. But I after hearing that and then seeing how Kofi went, I wonder if it would have been the same with Ali had Ali done that same performance.
Yeah, one does wonder that, and I would have to think that he probably would have gotten some crowd support, but whether he would have actually gotten pushed all the way to the championship rather than, because I mean the rumor was before, that Ali was going to get the title shot at Roadblock, I think it was, and then Kevin Owens was going to be the returning guy to get the championship match at WrestleMania, and I think Kofi getting the overwhelming crowd support at Elimination Chamber really turned all that on its head.
Yeah, and then Owens gets the title shot at Roadblock, and of course we saw what happened with Kofi. But the last thing I really have about this Evolve show, I don't have much to say about it. I mean, we've talked about Henry and Theory as much as we probably can. Those two are future stars, and I would love to see either one of them at the top of a promotion. I think Austin Theory is going to be at some point and going to be there for a long time. But the only other thing that really stuck out on this was the Shotzi Blackheart Brandy Lauren match that was not scheduled, just kind of happened because
it was scheduled. It just wasn't.
Was it
scheduled when it happened?
Oh, okay. I didn't. It sounded.
Evolved,
It sounded like it wasn't even scheduled. It just kind of happened because they kept fighting, and they're like, "Oh, fuck it, let's make a match."
Jeff, that would make a lot of sense, except for it was a kendo sticks are legal match. Those don't just happen out of nowhere.
Well, it could have. They've done weirder things in promotions. I mean, Jesus, they made a 3-man or a triple threat match in the beginning, just because the Unwanted came down and beat everyone's ass.
Yes, but did they say that I don't know, smelling salts are legal in this one or something? I don't know why smelling salts came into it, but
probably because I don't know.
Because I'm cooking and I'm looking at like what I have in the kitchen, I think.
And you see salt out of your eye. I get it. I understand. Yeah, I don't know. I did enjoy this. This was a good 2 hours. This is what a 2-hour show should be like. And I would love to see if AEW went more this route as opposed to the WWE route with the backstage segments and all that crap. I would much rather see them go this route with the promos on the way to the ring or before and after matches, because I thought this was a lot of fun for 2 hours.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing with AEW doing that is that they've already got their Road 2 shows and being the Elite, so they could kind of combine all 3 shows together into putting, the wrestling and the backstage stuff all together.
Right. Yeah.
They could easily have a symbiotic relationship between those 3 shows.
Yeah, it would be nice if they did. Well, because they're 8 to 15 to 20 minute segments on those, so I don't know how they'd work those into the shows. But I wouldn't mind seeing like a road to whatever their next pay-per-view is, as one segment.
Well, I wasn't saying I was talking about a segment. I was talking about like every week, so having the Road 2 for the backstage type stuff, and then having the wrestling on their actual show.
Oh, yeah,
Whether they'll actually do that or not, I have no idea.
That would be good. Say, hey, you want to see some of the backstage things going on here? Check out these shows, Being the Elite and the Road 2 show.
Yeah, and another good reason to do that is simply because while YouTube is where it's at for the younger fan, and while I'm sure a lot of the younger wrestling fans already know about Being the Elite for one at least, there's also casual fans or lapsed fans that they're trying to attract or new fans that may not know about this stuff. So if you say, take a look at this on the latest Being the Elite, then you're driving channel both ways.
Yeah, and that would make sense. And I would honestly love it if their show, or even if NXT's show, would start to take like this format as opposed to giving up entire segments to the backstage.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just me. I enjoyed this a lot because there wasn't all. I mean, the comedy was in its spots and it had its moments and everything, but the reality is they kept it mainly in the ring.
When AEW was starting, Cody had said that he doesn't want to have a pay-per-view every month where the fans are paying $40 or $50. He doesn't think that's the right way to do business, and he doesn't think that's the right thing for the fans. And so far, they've kept to that word. And their next show is not a month after All Out. It's a little bit over 2 months after. It's on November 9th, I believe. And All Out was on August 31st. But it is a little bit disheartening to me that they're doing that they already announced what the matches are for that pay-per-view rather than having it play out on their television show.
Well, I'm sure a lot of them are going to.
I really wish they had waited until December to do this pay-per-view so that they had the lead time for the ticket sales at the same time as also promoting it on television rather than putting things off screen. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I don't think they've announced a whole ton, have they? Just 2 matches, from what I understand.
Right, but the 2 big drawing matches that we could have seen built up on television instead are announced off-screen.
Well, one of them we kind of knew because it was canceled on this last one. And I don't have a huge problem with them naming. I wish they would have done a tournament. Considering this is 2.5 months, or they would have waited a little longer to name a number 1 contender for Jericho. But I don't have a problem with Cody being named it, considering he's the one who's got the best record and everything. And then it gives them, 2 months to build up a storyline between those two, other than just, the champion versus the number 1 competitor. But Moxley Omega, I mean, that one was canceled, so we knew that was going to happen. There was no need to build that up. The rest of it, they can build the card.
Well, there's no need to build it up. Then why did Kenny say what he said about Moxley on Being the Elite?
Well, I mean,
obviously there's a reason to build it up. I mean, if you're saying there's no reason to keep us in suspense that the match is going to happen, then I guess I can agree with that. But then why do you have to announce the title match at the same time?
Yeah, and that
Moxley versus Omega should be enough to sell a pay-per-view.
And 2.5 months out, you would think. You would think that'd be enough to sell a pay-per-view when it's that far out.
Right.
But as far as I know, have the tickets even gone on sale for the show yet?
They went on sale on Friday.
Oh, did they? Okay.
I do not believe they sold out yet.
Oh, wow.
But still, there's over 2 months to go, so it's not really like it's...
Well, yeah, but when you consider their last 3 big shows sold out in minutes,
yeah, that
is kind of a little shocking.
Yeah. It was going to stop at some point. I mean, you can't always have this kind of buzz going forever.
Well, and now people have seen 4 shows produced by them, and they, one thing I wanted to mention, I noticed this last weekend, or actually yesterday watching football. Everybody's all over AEW for their camera work and their shoddy production and all this stuff, and how a company that big shouldn't have all these production issues. Does anybody watch NFL games and see all the production issues that the NFL has? If the NFL can have
I will
production
say
issues,
no, I do not watch NFL games. 'Cause
well,
football sucks.
I'm just saying you don't. But there's when you're looking at a company the size of the NFL that still has production issues in every single game, I'm okay with AEW having a couple here and there, and I think they should get off their backs. And WWE has production issues all the time with bad camera cuts and things like that. So I don't know. That was one of those just people hating just to hate.
Well, I actually hadn't seen any of that. So, like, what kind of stuff are they talking about?
Just talking about there were a few issues in a couple early matches where the camera cuts were, and they had they all complained about the first show, Double or Nothing, and then I also heard All Out, some of the camera angles were bad, and some of the other backstage production stuff was just off.
Okay, so let's be real about this for a second. Do you want a WWE-like product, or do you want a pro wrestling type product? Because if you want WWE just with different talents, then what you're complaining about, if you're complaining about the production values, makes a lot of sense.
Right.
If you want a pro product where it feels like the cameramen and the announcers don't know what's going to happen next, and they don't necessarily know where that camera should be pointed at any given second, then you like when there's quote-unquote production issues, because it's not actually an issue, it's just being caught on camera.
Well, it's like I said with the NFL. If the NFL is going to have production issues, and they've been doing this for 100 years and are one of the most profitable companies in the world, if they can have some issues, I think AEW can have a few as well.
Yeah.
I guess was just where I was going with that.
I know, but I mean, even with the NFL, is it a production issue, or is it the fact that
they
may not know where, that it's not a scripted product, so they don't know where the ball carrier is going to be, or where the ball's going to pop out at, or
that's not. Stuff. No, there were some parts where in middle of interviews they would cut back to the studio instead of leaving it on the rest of the interview. I was watching the start of one of the games, and the announcers were doing their normal sell job that they do 5 minutes before the game starts, and midway through the guy talking, they just cut back to the studio, and the guy in the studio was standing there like, okay, I guess I go now. And literally stood there staring at the camera for a few seconds because he didn't realize it was coming back to him.
And that's that happened at All Out?
Well, no, but that's, it's similar that it's a production issue, and that's what I'm saying is that if the NFL can have missteps in production, so can AEW.
Right. I'm just trying to, because I didn't see the show and I don't remember any, really production issues much at Double or Nothing. I guess I'm trying to understand what people are seeing that they're criticizing.
Like I said, it's just camera cuts and things like that. It was stupid.
Well, they're idiots.
That's what I'm saying. I'm just saying that there's going to be production issues in a live broadcast.
Yeah, because if you listen to guys like Jim Ross and Bruce Pritchard, they will tell you that the reason why in WWE they go over and they rehearse every single match, and so they can tell like the producers and the cameramen where they need to be for each shot. And if that's really what you want in your wrestling, and you don't want them to be actually working in the ring or putting on the best show they possibly can, the wrestlers I'm talking about, not the cameramen, then go somewhere else and watch WWE or watch NXT. Don't watch AEW. Sorry, that just pisses me off.
Well, it kind of struck a nerve with me. I saw it on Twitter the next day after All Out. People complaining about the production value.
Yeah, we also live in a world where everybody has to complain about fucking everything.
That is true. That is true.
So, I guess I didn't mean to go off on that, but it really pissed me off when you mentioned that. I honestly do not understand. I mean, did you really miss anything by that happening that isn't compensated for by the fact that it makes it look more realistic? more gritty, more sports-like, like AEW's been telling you for months they're going to be?
Not really.
And I just realized I never actually published a link for our show, so I'm doing that right now. I mean, it still went out on Twitter and stuff, but it didn't go on Lords of Pain yet. So.
Ah, okay.
I told you I was going to be distracted by cooking at the same time. All right.
Yeah, this has been. It's as many shows to watch a Ring of Honor tonight.
I'm sorry. What?
How many shows there have been this last month? I didn't get a chance to watch, but I've watched.
Yeah,
And there were a few
there's
things
been
that
a lot of
happened
shows
on
this
Royal
month, absolutely.
Quest. But it's just amazing that I have more to talk about.
Well, you know, I had a date on. I think I told you about this on Friday about with the guy that I was with before. You know, I like him. I know he's definitely a solid wrestling fan, but he's of the opinion, you know, the booking and Matt Taven as champion is what's bringing it down. You know, I certainly don't understand why the hell. Was I gonna say that? Why the hell they didn't put the title on Marty Scurll when they had a chance? Actually 2 months before Taven's contract is up. And secondly, I mean, if they're drawing right, maybe should they maybe bring else other than Taven? You could make that argument, and I'd listen to it. It would even be right. But is that our job as wrestling fans to be looking at the attendance, or should we be looking at the product that the company is putting out? Because I've enjoyed a lot of the booking that they're doing. I've enjoyed Taven as champion. I'm getting the champion. You know, if you're looking at the attendance and the drawing and things like that, you're maybe looking at the wrong thing as a wrestling fan. I mean, certainly you want to feel that people are watching about it and that kind of thing. I watch Ring of Honor. If I'm enjoying Ring of Honor, regardless of whether there's 1,500 people in the stands, people in the stand.
And that's
But all that being said, I will say that looking at the card on Friday night, Evolve instead. So.
Right. Well, it's not just that. I mean, it's people put too much in it forever. I mean, they blamed Diesel for the bad ratings back in 1995. They blamed Bret Hart for the bad ratings in '96. You know, they just found a way to blame somebody for the bad ratings, and it's always the champion, the head champion that's bad ratings, and that's not the case when a company is not just built on one guy. Especially now when you have to have 14 different styles of wrestling to appease everybody. You know, maybe Matt Taven is not everybody's style of wrestling. I personally love him. He's been a great champion. I think he's getting better in the ring every single day. He's definitely one of the best heel workers when it comes to crowd work. He's amazing. So do I agree they should put the title on Scurll? Yeah, I did then and I do now. I also have no issues with Taven because I felt like he deserved it. And I think, personally, I think what's hurting Ring of Honor is not booking. It's their lack of promotion. Also, the fact that they lost, 5 to 6 guys? 7 guys? They were basically building the company around for the last couple of years. They lost them. They all went to AEW at the same time. So when you're literally scraping and scrambling, do you really think taking the spot he's in right now, or Villain Enterprises would exist if the Bucks and SCU and Kenny had stuck around, or not Kenny, Cody had stuck around?
No, and if he was the world champion, he'd have better guys to work with. That would be the ones that are drawing things until he gets more resistance and people are being. Sorry, everyone. I lost power on my computer and I lost Skype, and now got my computer back up and running. But I'm trying to get Jeff back, so just give me a moment to try to get him back here. I'm not sure how much you heard of what I was saying before my computer decided it was going to die. What I was saying is that, all that being said, that I wouldn't blame the champ or the booker. Looking at the shows that we're going to put together this weekend, I really enjoyed the show from Chicago, but looking at the other cards, I personally wouldn't have paid money to go see them, so I can certainly understand why they didn't draw crowds if indeed they didn't draw crowds. And so I'm trying to let Jeff know I'm trying to add him because he's still not answering. So sorry about that, guys. But yeah, looking at the cards that Ring of Honor put together this weekend, if you look at the show on, and this is a partnership between them and CMLL, so this isn't just ROH, and like I was saying, maybe they shouldn't have run 3 shows this weekend because this just isn't the kind of drawing power that I would think a lot of people are going to want to see. So I'm just going to go back to take a step back and go to the show on Friday night, which was in Dearborn. So the main event is Matt Taven and Vinny Marcello versus Volador Jr. and Triton. Not exactly my cup of tea. Then you have Stuka Jr. versus Roosh. Again, that's just CMLL versus CMLL. You probably could have seen that on YouTube at some point in the last few years. And you've got Team CMLL against Villain Enterprises in an 8-man tag, which, as you know from listening to the show, that I personally am not a fan of. Bandito versus Jay Briscoe. Now, that's a match that I really want to watch, but I haven't watched yet. Then you have Dalton Castle and Joe Hendry versus Jonathan Gresham and Jay Lethal. Again, not exactly a barn burner type stuff. So, that's just not. Then you have a Triple Threat between Kenny King, Jeff Cobb, and Tracy Williams, which I bet was a strong match. So that one I probably give a shot to as well. And then you have Dax Draper versus the Haitian Sensation in the semifinals of the Top Prospect Tournament. So that card from top to bottom is not something that I, as a discerning pro wrestling fan, would look at and say I want to pay money to go see. I'd much rather just sit at home and watch what I want to watch on Honor Club and just kick back and relax rather than going to this particular show. That's just me, from my wrestling tastes. Now, looking at this show from Chicago that I did watch most of, I still have not seen the main event yet. I had my granddaughter this weekend and we were doing things, so I only watched what I could of it before I got too tired and then just went to bed after, kind of after the show was over and she had gone to bed. Then, so that show was the other semifinal of the Top Prospect Tournament. So you had Dante Caballero versus Austin Gunn, so Billy Gunn's kid. You had the Briscoes, the Bouncers versus the team of Ray Bucanero and Hechicero, so a decent match there. You had Joe Hendry versus Shane Taylor in a Proving Ground match. For those of you who are not Ring of Honor fans and don't know what a Proving Ground match is, if the challenger wins the match or survives 15 minutes with the champion, then they get a title shot down the road. Then there's a 4-corner survival with Kenny King, Dalton Castle, Marty Scurll, and Colt Cabana. Villain Enterprise versus Lifeblood. So that was Lifeblood's Bandito, Mark Haskins, and Tracy Williams taking on Villain Enterprises minus Marty. You had Josh Woods and Silas Young taking on PJ Black and Okamura. And then you had Cobb, Gresham, and Lethal versus Stuka Jr., Triton, and Caristico, which I had no interest in whatsoever. I think I did kind of doze off during that one. And then the main event, then you have Roosh versus Barbaro Carbonario for the first time ever on U.S. soil, strong match, and then the main event was Matt Taven versus Volador Jr. So if you look at that card from top to bottom, very strong card that I definitely would have gone to see if I was still in the Chicago area. I'm not, of course, because I was there a week ago. But I mean, if this card had been there and I had known about it while I was in Chicago during Labor Day weekend, I probably would have made an effort to go see it. Then you look the next night at the kind of adjoining Wisconsin city of Milwaukee, which I have not seen this show yet either. And you look at the card for that, you have Marty Scurll versus Joe Hendry, a strong match there. Silas Young and Josh Woods teaming up again, this time against Letho and Gresham. Decent match there. The Bouncers against Villain Enterprises. The Allure versus Kelly Klein and Stacey Shadows. Who cares? Roosh and Jeff Cobb versus The Kingdom. Again, who cares? And then you have Karistico, Stuka Jr. and Volador Jr. taking on Okamura, Hejikaro, and Ray Bucanero. Again, not my type of thing. Triton versus Flip Gordon versus PJ Black. Probably a fun, high-flying match that I would probably give a look to. And then the main event is Lifeblood, which is again Haskins, Williams, and Bandito as a six-man, teaming up against the Briscoes and Barbaro Carbonario. So, nothing on, a couple things on this card are certainly things that I will probably give a look at. But again, that's something that I would necessarily pay to go see in an arena. And so when you look at this, what they booked over the weekend, I can see that, they had these guys up from CMLO. They probably wanted to get three cards put together, but it's not necessarily, something that the average wrestling fan is going to absolutely want to pay money to see these three shows, or even to see one of the three shows. So, I mean, when I look at this, the Chicago show was great. At least the lineup was great. But the other two shows built around the ROH weekend were, passable, and that's about the best I can say about them. So there definitely is some legitimacy to maybe the booking isn't sensational, but at the same time, when you've got these guys coming in from CMLL that, U.S. fans might want to give a look at, there's only so much you can do to kind of get everybody on the card.
Yeah, I agree with that. And yes, I'm back. I thought you were rebooting, so I had to run and take care of an issue.
No, I was not rebooting. I was just turning my computer back on with the plug actually working this time.
Ah, okay. Well, that's good. That makes sense.
It's okay. I filibustered about the Ring of Honor shows this weekend and how there's, when you look at stuff like that, I can see why people would be questioning the booking, because even as being a Ring of Honor fan like I am, I still looked at the card on Friday night and said I'd rather watch Evolve show from a week ago.
I guess I didn't. I mean, I know you said that. I didn't look at the cards. I didn't have a whole ton of interest in it when I found out it was more CMLL than New Japan this time. Not because, I don't have interest, but I have to prioritize. Luckily this weekend I might actually start to get caught up on some stuff, because it's the first time I've been kid-free in, 6 weeks. So I'll be able to catch up on some stuff this week now and this weekend.
Well, I thought the semi-main. I hadn't seen the main event. I told you that earlier yet of the show from Saturday night, but I thought the semi-main, which was the first time ever in the United States where Carbonario was taking on Roosh, and then the main event of Matt Taven versus Volador Jr. In kind of a kind of a battle for between the two guys who lost their hair in the same match in last year's CMLL. So wouldn't that be?
That would be a grudge match because Taven turned on him.
It's a grudge match, but it's also for the championship. So I'm looking forward to getting some time to actually sit down and watch that one. But
yeah, and I did. It's my fault. I didn't even look at the cards. I don't really know, other than Hendry and Scurll. I'm not really sure who was even on the cards.
Scurll wasn't on this card.
Oh, was he?
No, this was the card where it was Joe Hendry versus Shane Taylor in a proving ground match. But I will kind of awaken you to the fact that the opening match is a top prospect tournament semifinal, and Billy Gunn's son is now in the finals of the Top Prospect tournament.
Oh, cool.
Sure.
I guess.
Sure, if you want to see a younger, smaller, less in shape guy doing all the moves that you saw in the '90s from his dad, then it's really cool.
Oh, well, yeah, that's not as cool as I thought it would have been.
All right, so let's move on to Royal Quest if you want.
The only other, yeah, I guess I don't have any. I was saying before that, it's before we lost you, that it's not so much about the champion, it's more about the ancillary guys, because in this day and age, you can't bank everything. Well, you couldn't even in the 80s. It wasn't just because of Hogan that the WWF was so prosperous in the 80s. It was because of Hogan and Savage and Steamboat and Harley Race and Bobby Heenan. You've got to have the support guys too. It's not always going to be about the champ. You know, and that's one thing that always bugged me about the 90s when they were bad-mouthing Diesel, because he was the champ at the top when their ratings were down so bad. Well, yeah, you also had Duke the Dumpster Drozier and IRS and some Repo Man. It wasn't like people were going to tune in to see anything else, so why tune in to see the champ?
True. Yeah, but I mean, I guess that's the argument would be, but all things being equal, wouldn't they be better off with Marty Scurll or Roosh or even Jeff Cobb being the champion? I would say that I don't think Jeff Cobb has proven himself to be a draw yet. But,
no, I don't think Roosh has, not in the States.
But we both were really into the way that he got pops at the last couple of shows too, where it looks where he definitely would have a decent shot of being a guy that could carry a promotion. I mean, there's no way to know for sure until you put the strap on him, but I do think that he's got the ability to draw.
I think one of the hardest parts is going to be the fact that he doesn't speak English.
But he does.
Does he? Okay, I don't think I've ever heard him.
Yeah, I think he's kind of like that Indian chief in Legends of the Fall, where he won't lower himself to speak English.
Oh, well, in that case, I understand.
Yeah, he's not like Bruce Willis's character in Fifth Element.
Wow.
All right, so let's.
So anyway, Royal Quest.
Yeah, so Royal Quest. My overall impression of this show is that I'm not impressed with this show. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get it.
I mean, I left this show feeling exactly the same way I felt for 6 months now about NJPW, which is that they're only interested in pushing the reset button. And pushing guys that I feel like have had their time and had their shot. And I mean, I watch this and I see that Okada's challenger is Minoru Suzuki, who's like 50 years old, we've already seen before, and it just reminds me of the fact that we saw Okada hold the World Championship for almost 24 months straight and wrestle every single challenger he could in that time. And so putting the title back on him, again, we're seeing him wrestle all the same guys over again. And it just bugs the shit out of me.
See, and now while I agree with you for some of that, I don't think the belt should have came off Jay White, period. I think that them putting it back on Okada was a little bit of a stretch that wasn't necessary right now. But in all honesty, I really enjoyed every match I watched on this, and I watched all of them, including the first two. I struggle with the fact that it was almost 4 hours. I I don't have that kind of time to sit down and watch a complete show unless I make that kind of time. But in all reality, that's a special occasion when I can sit down and just sit and watch an entire show all the way through. That's more than 2 hours. So I kind of saw this in bits and pieces. I enjoyed the opening match. I thought Umino looked good. I love the fact that the crowd is chanting "shooter" for him. It was nice to see Sho and Yo again. I liked the match with Hikaru. That is impressing me more and more every time I see him. And I've always missed Takahashi, so it was nice to see him back in the ring. The pairing of Ibushi and Robinson that early in a card was a little odd, but whatever. I love the team of Ospreay and Eagles, and I can't get enough of Ishimori and Phantasmo, so that match was great. I loved Jay White in his match against with Owens against Naito and Sonata, especially the Jay White that happened after the match. And I actually really enjoyed Aussie Open. I really enjoyed the Kenta Ishii match. I thought ZSJ was on point. I'm a little bummed that he lost it. And I actually really enjoyed the Suzuki Okada match. I thought it was really well done. So I mean, I have nothing but good to say about this. I guess I didn't. I do wish that Jay White was still the champion, but at the same point, I liked what they did with this card.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to just look at the wrestling match, if you just want to look at the actual wrestling itself, which of course is what wrestling is mostly about, then there's not really a lot you can say against this card. It's the fact that it all feels same old to me that makes me just kind of shrug my shoulders and say, man, that was a show I watched. I will say that I didn't watch the first two matches because I was about to watch the opening 6-man, and then I saw that Taguchi was in, and I was like, fuck that. And then
I like Taguchi. I don't know.
I can't
It's weird
stand
because I hate Toru Yano with a passion, but I like Taguchi for some reason. They're basically the same character.
Yeah, I hate that ass-based offense bullshit. It just drives me fucking up the wall.
I don't know. I like the fact, and I don't remember who are the announcers here. Kevin Kelly and who was the other guy?
Gino Gambino.
That's who it was. Okay. His hatred for Rocky Romero was fantastic throughout the entire match, and they didn't go too long with either of those opening matches. They were both about 8 minutes, so it's not like they really they didn't take up too much time. I don't know. I enjoyed both of them. I thought Umino is going to be a star someday.
Yeah, we've been saying that for months, maybe a year even.
I wonder if he's not going on Excursion because he's kind of paired himself with Moxley.
I think that's probably the case. I had no interest, and just like Taguchi, I had no interest in seeing Hikaru in a match either. So,
I was actually impressed with him, which is weird because I haven't liked him ever. I didn't like him before. I didn't like him, before his Excursion. I didn't like him after his Excursion, but he's getting better.
yeah, I mean, and that's certainly I've heard that from multiple sources to the point where I can certainly believe he's getting better. But whether that makes him something that I actually want to watch is another story.
Oh, he definitely needs a personality to separate himself. Because right now he's just, generic guy number 3.
Well, he also definitely needs to not be in the worst faction of all time in order to separate himself too. So,
we're on the worst faction of all time now.
I can't stand the current incarnation of Bullet Club. I love Jay White. I'm a big fan of Phantasmo and Ishimori, and I really like Chase Owens. But I mean, when you add Bad Luck Fale into there, and you add the fucking Guerrillas of Destiny into there, to me it overwhelms all the good that thing has, because I just can't stand those 3.
See, and I think Kenta was a great addition to it as well.
Yeah.
But Gato and Jado, I can live without. God, Tamatanga is talented, but he really gets drugged down by Tangaloa, and he's not good as a single.
I mean, because that's what I used to.
I think he does.
And then we saw Tamatanga in last year's G1, and he was awful.
No, I'm not saying he should be a singles wrestler, but I think Tongaloa kind of drags him down. I think he could shine. I think he would shine a lot more if he was in with a different partner. I mean, Tongaloa's a good verbal heel, but he's not a good wrestler. He's not a good, badass. He's just not. I don't know what Tongaloa is good at. To be honest with you, I can't really pick out something about Tama Tonga. At least can tell somewhat of a story. He bumps like crazy. He definitely sells offense. The other guy's offense and gets them over that way. And he's got some kind of charisma. I'm not really sure it's my kind, but he definitely has a connection with the crowd. Where I just don't know what Tongaloa has.
He has a dad named Haku.
That's about it. Kyle Fletcher and Mark Davis. If AEW is serious about a tag team division, get these two over there. These two in SCC, get them over there because I think both those teams would bring so much to their tag division. Aussie Open is just amazing. And Kyle Fletcher.
I hadn't seen Aussie Open in like 6 months, and it's amazing to me how much better they've gotten and how much less they look like stick figures now than they did 6 months ago.
Well, yeah, I mean, Mark Davis put on a lot of weight, and Kyle Fletcher is kind of filled out. But yeah, you're right. I mean, they looked, but part of that also was the fact they were going up against Chris Brooks, who is the ultimate stick figure.
I suppose. Yeah.
And
wouldn't you think that would make them look better, not worse?
You would think so, but okay. Here's the current people that were at this show that are currently listed on the Rev Pro roster.
Okay.
You had ZSJ and Will Ospreay, Mark Davis and Kyle Fletcher.
You know that Ospreay is actually signed to NJPW, not to Rev Pro.
He's still on their roster. He's part of their active roster.
They can say that all they want to. He's not under contract with them. Anyway, go ahead.
He might be. I mean, like I said, look at Moxley. And El Phantasmo was another one.
Since Ospreay has said both on NJPW programming and on podcasts that he has an exclusive contract with NJPW, I'm going to go ahead and say he has an exclusive contract with NJPW.
If it was exclusive, would he be allowed to wrestle for other companies?
Yes, because they have a working agreement with those other companies he's wrestling for.
All right, well, he's still listed on their roster, so I'm going to say he's part of them. That's just the way it's going to be.
Keep going.
And then Fletcher, Davis, and Phantasmo. So there were 6 guys on this card that were on that are on the show. Okay, so 5 guys.
False. There was more NJPW talent on the show than there was Rev Pro talent on the show.
Well, I'm not going to say false because that's true.
All right then.
But that doesn't mean that they weren't represented about the same amount that House of Glory was in the last Impact show.
Well, that's a fair point, but I think that the whole point of Impact coming in with House of Glory was to give some of those House of Glory guys a shine and also a bit of a tryout with Impact. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, to me, this was promoted as a joint show, and I didn't feel like it was a joint show.
No, it was mainly an NJPW show featuring some NJPW talent that, also works for Rev Pro. I think, if anything, it was Davis and Fletcher were the only two that aren't normally on NJPW that were a part of this.
Right, and they were. I mean, they did do great in that match, but they were against guys that I just can't stand unless they're against the Briscoes or the Bucks. I agree with you about the tag match with Ospreay and Eagles taking on Phantasmo and Ishimori. That was a hell of a match. Not my favorite tag match of the year because there's been some strong ones this year, but
and they didn't really have.
It's probably my top 10, I would guess, for tag matches.
They didn't have really the kind of time to put on a story that they would have liked to. Right. I mean, I do like the fact that you're getting the Robbie Eagles versus Bullet Club storyline and teaming with Ospreay. I like the idea of Ospreay becoming a double champion because of it. It has some legs to it, but they only had 10 minutes to tell the story that they did. And Phantasmo, Ishimori, Eagles, Ospreay, those are 4 guys that I really, really enjoy watching, all in the ring at the same time. And then same thing with the next match, Naito, Sonata, Jay White, and Chase Owens. 4 guys that I really enjoy all in the ring at the same time. Those 2 matches were bound to be great. And they were.
And you would think that I would have enjoyed that tag match you just mentioned more than I did, but when you take into effect that that it had Sonata and White in there, they had some good interactions with each other. It's got Naito and Owens, who I also like, in there, but I really continue to be annoyed by what they're doing with Sonata, and so for him to be in this tag match, even getting the rub with Naito, even getting the victory, I mean, what would have hurt Jay White for him to be the one to tap out to Sonata? Nothing. So instead, Sonata gets the win over the Jobber in the match, helping him not at all, and helping Owens not at all. It was just stupid. I hated it.
Well, I liked Jay White afterwards.
Great. He attacks Sonata, and Sonata again looks like a chump. That's just wonderful.
Oh, Sonata's fine.
He's not. Jeff.
Did you watch?
How many points did he have in the fucking G1 climax?
Did you watch the entire show?
Yes. Other than those opening tag matches, I did.
Did you watch the speech by Okada afterwards?
No.
Oh. Oh.
What's that got to do with anything?
It's Sonata. He's the next challenger for the
great. So he gets to lose
IWGP
to
title.
Okada again. That's just fucking great.
Well, yeah, but come on.
I'm not gonna. Don't come on me. These guys that should be getting the push in NJPW just keep getting warmed up so they can lose again and again. Meanwhile, guys like Tanahashi beat Zack Sabre Jr. and guys like Okada beat Sonata.
Yeah, the ZSJ, that was bullshit. I didn't like that one.
No, if Sonata actually beats Okada, I'm going to say that's even stupider booking than Sonata losing, because I don't think you can go from Sonata getting 8 points in the G1, or maybe it was even 6. I can't remember for sure exactly off the top of my head right now. But having a losing record in the G1 to main eventing the Tokyo Dome. So to me, I mean, if you put the title on Sonata, that's even worse. It just makes him look like a chump going into the Tokyo Dome. I'm very down right now on this promotion. I'm not sure if you can tell that or not.
No, couldn't tell at all.
And it's not because they're not. And it's not because. And I'm gonna again stress. It's not because they're not putting on good matches. It's because I think the wrong guys are going over, and they're exactly where they were 2 years ago, with the way that they're booking right now. And I hate when companies push the reset button.
I'm not. Believe me, I've always got my favorites. I think should be pushed to the top of the line too. It's just. I don't know. I'm enjoying what I'm seeing. Like I've said before, I'm trying to stay when I'm watching wrestling now, and because we're watching so much of it, and because we know so much about the inner workings and, storylines, and we hear so many rumors and things like that, I'm trying to keep it all out of my mind and just watch the product for what it is. And ever since I started doing that, I've been enjoying a lot of these shows a lot more. And not just.
But even watching it for what it is, don't you look at it as a fan and say, I've already seen that match. I've already seen that match. I've already seen that match. I mean, I shouldn't have said that 3 times, but I mean, especially the last 2 matches. How many times have we seen Zack Sabre Jr. versus Hiroshi Tanahashi this year? I want to say this is the 6th time we've seen that match this year.
6th over 2 years.
Okay, and then we've got another one coming up on the Destruction Tour for a rematch for that British Championship.
Which, yeah. But I can't get sick of a Zack Sabre Jr. match, no matter how many times I see him with the same person. It's a lot like Drew Gulak and Matt Riddle. I could watch those two every night for a year and not get sick of it.
See, and I'm just not down with Tanahashi and Okada constantly being at the top of all the cards.
I agree. It's time for Tanahashi to step aside. I think his time has passed. I think Okada still has some gas left in his tank, but he should also be letting the door open for future challengers. And I don't think he's doing it. Gas left in his
tank, sure, but I mean, after having a 2-year title reign, and there not really being any fresh blood at the top other than
White,
Ibushi and White, it still feels like we're seeing the same matches over and over again.
Yeah, because we are.
And as far as Sonata, he's already had a title match this year against Okada. So unless something drastically changes and Sonata actually wins the championship, which again I would be shocked, and I would really need to see the booking up to Wrestle Kingdom to think that was actually a good idea. It's still the fact that he, basically he went 1-3 against Okada this year.
1-3.
Yeah, he lost to him in the finals of the New Japan Cup. He
Right.
lost to him in Okada's first title defense. And then there's this title defense coming up, and he beat him for the first time ever in G1 this year.
Did he beat him in G1? I thought Okada went undefeated.
No. If Okada went undefeated, he'd be the G1.
No, until the finals, I thought he lost to Kota Ibushi was his only loss.
No, he lost to Sonata and Ibushi.
Oh, okay. Well, then that makes sense why Sonata's going to get the title shot.
Right.
So unfortunately we can't really fault that booking and knew it was coming.
Yes, I figured it was coming. It just sours me on even being excited to see it because I know the result.
Yeah. Unfortunately, yeah. I can't disagree.
I'd be super thrilled to seeing Ibushi versus Sonata at Wrestle Kingdom, but I just don't think it's going to happen.
I would have rather seen Jay White versus Okada at Wrestle Kingdom than Ibushi, but because I just don't feel like Jay White got his true run, and I feel like he deserves another one and a longer one.
Well, you might be seeing that match because Ibushi is defending the briefcase against Jay White, isn't he?
I thought White was setting his sights on Naito in the IC
right. Yeah,
title.
you're right. So who's Ibushi defending? He's defending the title at one of the briefcase at one of the Destruction shows. Let me look at that up here.
My guess would be Kenta, since Kenta's the one who beat him in the tournament.
Yeah,
Did Kenta? No.
And that's the other thing. I'm amazed that you liked that match, Kenta against ECE, because I did not at all. Yeah, you're right. It is. He is defending the briefcase against Kenta.
I thought there was way too much callback to Shibata. I felt like if they're not going to put Shibata in the ring against Kenta at Wrestle Kingdom, they are way overselling this. But I liked the match itself. I thought it was a hard-hitting one. It's probably the best Never Championship match I've seen since that Wrestle Kingdom 10-1 with Ishii and Shibata.
Oh, I definitely don't agree with that. And I thought Kenta was playing a role. I mean, I thought for some reason his kicks to Ishii do not look the same as do not look the same, like the same kind of kicks to Ishii. I mean, they look like they shouldn't even be hurting him whatsoever to me. I'm not sure why, but they just don't look like they have the same impact on them that they should. And so to me, I really couldn't even believe the match. And then I thought it was so overbooked at the end, it was ridiculous. And that's just another thing where I said the Bullet Club is the worst stable of all time, because this current version is just awful. That's all they do.
Mm. Yeah. Can't disagree.
I mean, even if you look back to the Horsemen, I mean, most of the time Flair won the championship. It was on his own, and then when he was defending the title, it might be interference to help him hold on to the title.
Right.
Did you say you disagree?
No, I said I can't. It's unfortunate because I can't disagree because I see where you're coming from.
Yeah, I think if they were a four-man stable with the two juniors and Chase and White, I could really get behind them, even if Gato was with him. But I mean, I just cannot enjoy them with that Samoan part of the faction. I just can't stand those guys. And then Kenta, I don't think works as a heel, honestly. I think I lost Jeff yet again. This time I don't think it's on my end, though. I will try to get him back yet again. I have to really apologize for the technical issues tonight, folks. This is not my favorite thing in the world when our computers and our Skypes don't want to work well together and all that kind of jazz. So I really apologize for that. I'm going to try to get him back one more time here. And let's see if I can ring him up. Welcome back.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. This time it was my computer.
Yeah, that's what I told the audience too. Is that this time I think it was yours. So. But yeah, I mean, I guess my takeaway from this show is that I might be better off watching NJPW right now that I did for a few years of WWE, just watching their biggest stuff and trying to sit back and relax watching it rather than just watching the same shit over and over with my guys, with the same guys at the top constantly winning. I mean, I still like Okada a lot. I still really enjoy his stuff for the most part, but it's just that in the back of my mind, I'm always thinking, is this the right guy to be at the top right now? And I realize that I'm probably in the minority of New Japan Pro Wrestling fans because probably the guys that are actually going and watching these shows in Japan and stuff really enjoy what they're doing, but I just can't.
Again, I feel like they were really kind of put in a bad spot. I think we would still have Kenny Omega as the champion right now had he not left, and I think it would be a completely different company. It's a lot like Ring of Honor. That startup company really took the wind out of a lot of people's sails because if you look at it, they spent 5 years building Kenny Omega up.
But New Japan and Ring of Honor made that decision to not work with All Elite Wrestling.
That is true. I mean, it's on them. I'm not going to say that they weren't stupid about it. But in the same respect, they're kind of trying to fill gaps and holes. I can't blame them for really getting the belt back on Okada. I wish they wouldn't have. As my fandom goes, I wish they would have left it on Jay White for a while. But I get it because the guy they took to the top to take that mantle from Okada and to become the new Tanahashi versus Okada left. So in a way, I kind of give it to them that. Yeah, I get where you're coming from. I can't say it enough. I wish Jay White was still the champ. But I don't know if Omega had left, if Jay White would be the champ.
I think they still would have built him. I think he was already on his way up the card to the point where he would have been at some point, even if it wasn't
at some point
right now.
Just not this. I don't think he would have been this year.
But see, even if it wasn't Jay White, I think that I would be more. I would think I'd be more happy if Naito was the champion. I think I'd be more happy if Ibushi was the champion, and he might be after Wrestle Kingdom. But I just think putting the Okada, I think this it wasn't, and I want to stress that it wasn't just putting the title on Okada, but it was putting the title on Okada, putting the Intercontinental title back on Naito, and putting the tag titles back on God. All of that combined together made me feel like, okay, they're just pressing the reset button and going back to their comfort zone, and they're not taking any chances. They're not taking. They're not planning for. They're not doing anything fresh and exciting.
But if, and I hate to be the
keeping Ospreay as a junior heavyweight just makes it feel even more that way.
That I agree with. Okay, that's one that I will agree with, is I think Will Ospreay should never have lost that Never title. I think he should have kept it. I hated their booking of him against Jeff Cobb because I knew he was going to lose it. But in a way, I think that the juniors would have been fine with Ishimori holding the title and keeping it, or Dragon Lee or somebody like that, until Takahashi comes back, if he ever is going to, or not Takahashi.
No, it's Takahashi. You're right.
Oh yeah. Oh, I would got him.
It's not Yujiro. It's Hiromu.
Yeah. I think they would have been fine. I think one of the biggest issues they have is who else are they going to throw into that heavyweight title picture? You've got Jay White, Tanahashi, Suzuki. We want to see Sonata and Evil up there, and Ibushi and ZSJ. But in all reality, there's not too many options they can go with those top two belts.
I agree. There's not too many options that they can go to with those top two belts. My problem is going with the safe and obvious choice when they had other options that would have been fresher and more exciting to go with. They took the safe business route, which maybe that's what they want to do. But I mean, if they really want to keep this U.S. expansion going, I don't feel like Okada's the right guy. I don't even necessarily feel like White's the right guy. I think it's got to be something like Naito, Ibushi, maybe ZSJ, maybe somebody we're not even thinking of that isn't even there right now. But I mean, I don't think that they're going to be able to continue their U.S. expansion at least if it's Okada having the same matches he's had for the last 3 or 4 years.
The thing is that it's kind of fresh to a new audience, and I think that's why they're going with it. Like, how many times have we seen Tanahashi Okada? You and I. How many times have we seen that? 14, 15?
Yep.
It's borderline Randy Orton versus John Cena at this point. For us, but not for the U.S. people, not for most of the U.S. fans.
Okay, so I would go along with that premise if it wasn't for the fact that that was the main event of the first night of the G1 Climax in Dallas, and they only showed, about a third of that attendance?
Yeah. All right. You got me.
I see where they might have been thinking that, and I even think that would have been a fine match to close out G1 Supercard with. But because that was already sold, and you could have seen what the reaction was to it, and then gone from there. But I don't think that they've got. I think you mentioned that AEW stole a lot of thunder. I think that one of the things that AEW stole thunder from was the fact that there wasn't really a number 2 promotion in the United States, and so New Japan could have come in. And even if they were only here like once a month or once every couple of months, they could have been that presence that became the number 2 promotion in the United States. Now they've got no shot.
Yeah, I don't know if they could have been. I mean, they're the number 2 promotion in the world. Borderline number. You don't think so?
No, not with the AEW out there now.
You think AEW is a higher promotion worldwide than NJPW?
I think AEW has already proven by their pay-per-view buys that they're more popular than NJPW is internationally.
I think
NJPW has what? I want to say it's like 10 or 15,000 people that monthly subscribe to their service, and AEW's had more buys than that on every one of their pay-per-views so far, I believe.
I kind of wish AEW would come out with a streaming service other than BR Live.
I think they need more content before they do. I
think it's one
of those chicken and the egg things.
At this point, if they would play the broadcasts of their weekly show 24 hours later, I'd subscribe. Even though I'm going to be watching their weekly show, live, but I would pay the money to be able to watch it.
I would pay. Sit here when I'm sitting here with my dogs, and they started having these farts that smell like cooking cauliflower.
And I just now put my dinner down, because I had cauliflower on my plate. You ass. I don't know. I get where you're coming from with all this. I really do. And I can't disagree with it. And I think it's the same thing for Ring of Honor. They really are struggling. Both these promotions are really struggling because of the hole that they got left. I mean, when was the last time any promotion had such a mass exodus?
Yeah, it's really crazy.
If you look at it, WCW was really the last time there was a mass exodus like this, where there were so many of their top tier guys that were just gone overnight. Well, I guess TNA did have quite a falling out there toward, a couple years ago before they became Impact. But when the Radicals left,
Right, but I think the difference is that when you're leaving, when there's a group of guys that are leaving in a plan to go with another company, it's a difference. Like when the radical, because like you said, the Radicals, I think is maybe what you're thinking of. When the Radicals left WCW, they also supposedly had told Conan and Shane Douglas that they could come along with them, and Shane Douglas was never actually part of their plan, and Conan called Bruce Pritchard and he said, "Hey, it's K-Dog," and
Bruce didn't know who he was.
He had no idea who K-Dog was. He
That's
said,
still one of the best stories ever.
He said if he'd known it was Conan, he would have signed him, but he had no idea who K-Dog was.
Well, and they had no interest with Shane Douglas because Shane Douglas had already failed twice there.
Right, but
Forehand, I mean,
he has said that he was under the impression that his boys in what was that stable called? We're going to bring him in with him. I can't think of the name of the stable at the moment, but we're going to bring him in. I can't either.
It was what, Benoit, Perry Saturn,
Dean Malenko, and Shane Douglas. Yeah.
Yeah. What the hell were they? I can't remember, but the Revolution or something like that.
Yeah, the Revolution. That's what it was.
But from what, and I think you and I both heard the same podcast. It was the one with Pritchard and Colin, whatever his name is, Conrad Thompson, where he said that not one guy mentioned Shane Douglas, bringing Shane Douglas along, but every single one of them said, "I don't care if you take me, you got to take Chris."
Right.
So I think we talked about that on our latest free episode on the Patreon account, the Wrestling Wrecked with Wrestlers series of Chris Benoit, that is free right now on our Patreon account. I forgot to get that plug in earlier, so I'll have to make sure to do it later. But I don't know. I like I said, I enjoyed the card for what it was. I thought the wrestling on it was great, and that's honestly, if I do anything else with this show, it's to open people's eyes to the actual wrestling product. Not all the backstage gossip, not all the crap that goes on, but the product that you see on your TV. What you see coming through. And when you look at it, there's a lot of different companies out there. Some of them are great. Some of them are good. Some of them have, a shining star here and there, like the NWA right now, outside of a couple of guys. I don't really care about the NWA. Ring of Honor has, their top guys, but they've got some guys that are putting on some great stuff. NJPW is still, in my eyes, still the top of the mountain as far as wrestling goes, because they are still the ones that are out there putting on great match after great match after great match every single show, whether you like what the politics are or not. That's my one goal, is to get people to enjoy wrestling for what wrestling is again. And to get away from, all the inner workings and this guy has this contract and this guy has that contract. I just want people to enjoy it for what it is.
Well, taking a step back to the politics of things, I also want to mention, because I'm that on the Be in the Elite mailbag, which is part of the Starcast 3, and I think if I didn't tell you that that's available on our Fight account, Jeff, it's available on our Fight account. But Kenny Omega was asked, "Will you be at Wrestle Kingdom 14?" And he said, "Well, I don't want to say when pigs fly, but." He made it pretty clear that while it's certainly possible things could change and something could come up that would interest him, that he's pretty sure that he's wrestled his last match for NJPW.
I hope
that he just feels like he's done everything he can in that promotion. That there's no, like what I said about Okada, like fresh and exciting matches for him, And so while he is going back to Japan in November, it won't be for NJPW. He's going to be back with DDT, which is where he got his start in Japan.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, there really is no fresh matchup for him. The top guys in NJPW are still the top guys that have been the top guys for the last 4 or 5 years. The only thing that could have worked would have been the fact that he and Jay White could have been a Rock Austin Triple H type scenario where the two of them kind of came up through the ranks together. Mm-hmm. Outside of that, I don't know that there's really much. And even Triple H and Stone Cold and The Rock and Stone Cold, we got so sick of seeing them wrestle all the time, or Triple H and The Rock, that I think it would have came to that with Jay White and Omega at some point too.
I don't know that I ever got sick of seeing The Rock versus Triple H.
I don't think I ever did. I did get sick.
I know when a couple of years ago it was rumored as a match for WrestleMania, that really turned my stomach just because they're both, guys that, in my opinion, shouldn't be featured anymore. But I think like when it was actually happening, I could have watched more of The Rock versus Triple H.
And I'm kind of there with you too. I got sick of the Rock Austin stuff. But Rock Triple H, I mean, because I remember their ladder matches. I remember them going back and forth over the IC title and then moving up to the heavyweight title. I always thought they had such great chemistry together and put on such great matches that I never got sick of them.
Yeah, one of the
but
great
I know,
rivalries of all time for sure.
Which is weird because it always gets overshadowed by Rock Austin.
Well, Rock Austin is more hyped, but they weren't the rivals that Rock and Triple H were. No,
that the DX versus Nation stuff and Rock, then even DX versus the Corporation, and then it was always Triple H versus The Rock, and they had such a great rivalry and such great chemistry together.
What they didn't have that The Rock and Austin had 3 times was a one-on-one match at WrestleMania.
That's true.
That's why it gets overshadowed.
And that makes sense.
I would also probably argue that Triple H and Austin had a better rivalry than Rock Austin.
Which time?
Exactly.
Yeah, because I think all their rivalries, even after the 2-man power trip, I thought was fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at The Rock, I think his rivalry against Jericho, his rivalry against Triple H. His rivalry against, actually, my favorite rivalry with Austin and The Rock was over the Intercontinental title, not the World title. So.
Yeah, when Austin threw the belt in the lake or in the river or whatever, and threw his Rolex, and that's still one of my favorite Austin promos of all time.
Yeah, and I would take The Rock over Foley over Rock versus Austin too. So.
Yeah, that's a tough one though, because I had my ups and downs with that rivalry. I think the part that really got me was that one I Quit match with all the chair shots. Mm-hmm. When you knew that Mankind or Foley was not going to be happy afterwards.
But did you know that until you saw Beyond the Mat, or did you just? That's the thing. Is watching the show. Did you know that was going through his head? Even back then, I knew that
wrestling was a work, and it wasn't. Even because this was at the beginning of really the whole internet taking over and the rumor mills and Dave Meltzer and all that crap, but. Even back then, I knew that those two were really, really good friends. And I knew that if I had been hit in the head that many times by my friend, that he and I would have some issues for a while.
I guess that at that point in time, I didn't understand that chair wasn't gimmicked. That it was a real chair and he was really hitting him that hard with it.
It's funny because during that time is when most chairs stopped being gimmicked. Even tables at this point aren't gimmicked, which is why sometimes if they don't hit them right, they got to hit them again, which makes no sense to me. They've got to go back to gimmick chairs and stuff because people are just getting destroyed. But it just just looking at it, even if it was a gimmick chair, you have to realize how many times he got hit in the head with it. And if you get hit in the head with a pillow that many times, it's going to suck.
That's a fair point. I think it's hilarious, like going back and watching like old Ric Flair stuff and seeing him hit people with chairs, because he hit, like just would like he'd like hold him like by the very top of the chair and he'd like just barely tap them with it. It was it was really funny.
Yeah, it's kind of like his chair shots weren't that pleasant, but it reminds me of the Harley Race episode that we did 2 weeks ago, where we were talking about that pile driver, where you could tell if you were really looking, that pile driver didn't hurt at all. Mm-hmm. They went with the rolling pile driver that Harley Race used to do, but you could just tell that nothing is as bad as Ric Flair's chair shots. That might be the worst.
You know, I had another topic for tonight's show, but I don't think we can cover it in 8 minutes, so I think I'll save it for next week.
Might be able to.
No, we can't.
Oh, so. All right. You want to give me a teaser on it?
Yeah. My wife, as you know, went to All Out with me, and after the tag team ladder match, and there was two guys that attacked both the Bucks and the Lucha Brothers. And come
on, we know who those two guys are.
And she asked me who they were. And this was before taking them back, so I said, I'm pretty sure that's LAX. And she said, well, who's LAX? And I said, they're one of the top 5 tag teams in the world. And
top 5?
And so I listed out for her who I think are the top 5 tag teams in the world in no particular order. And so I thought it would be a fun exercise because, you know, Gino Gambino said that the Guerrillas of Destiny are the best tag team in the world, which is fucking bullshit.
Gino's an idiot.
And I thought it'd be a fun exercise for me to list what my top 5 tag teams are in the world, see if you agree with mine, and then see where we'd rank them all.
See, I would have LAX in my top 3.
Okay, but that's still top 5.
Well, I know, but I'm just saying, I think top 5 is a little. I can't think of anybody in Japan right now. Ring of Honor. Not really anybody in Ring of Honor. The only WWE tag team I can really put up there now that the bar is done would be the Revival, but I haven't seen them wrestle in so long. Are they still as good as they were? I mean, right now I would have to say the top 5 tag teams are all in AEW. Well, I take that back. When you've got Aussie Open out there too, though. So maybe not. I mean, I'd have to go Lucha Brothers, Bucks, in this no particular order, but Lucha Brothers, Bucks, and LAX in the top 3, and then probably Aussie Open up there, and God, I don't know from there.
Okay, so my top 5, and again in no particular order, because I thought it'd be, like I said, a fun exercise to rank them, and obviously, you must not have the same top 5 I do, because I wouldn't have had Aussie Open in mine. But I would say you had 3 of them right. So LAX, I shouldn't say 3 of them right, but 3 of them the same as me. So LAX, Lucha Brothers, the Young Bucks, Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish.
Oh, shit, yeah.
And then the Briscoes are my top 5.
Yeah. I totally forgot about those two. And I guess when I was thinking Ring of Honor, I totally forgot about the Briscoes.
I know. You said nobody in Ring of Honor. I was like, what the fuck?
And I didn't even. And of course, Red Dragon would be in there too.
Yeah. So those are my top 5. And I mean, and you know, I think the North and the Rascals, you know, are on my radar and probably will get there. But I mean, there's certainly no question in my mind that AEW is the best tag team division in the entire planet.
Another pairing that's on my radar is Ospreay Eagles. I think if they can continue, I mean, Show and Yo, I haven't seen enough of them this year. In fact, I've only seen them twice this year, which is really depressing because I thought they were the next up and coming young Bucks there for a while, but we haven't seen them all year.
I think for Eagles and Ospreay, they're sensational singles wrestlers that operate well as a tag team. But I would have to see them perform regularly as a tag team, and also see them develop some exciting tag team moves. You know, that hot tag building type stuff in order for me to really get on board with them being one of the top teams in the world. It's going to take time for that to happen.
It's hard to look past SCU though too.
No, it's not.
I'm not talking Daniels. I'm Kazarian and Scorpio Sky.
Yeah,
I think are a really good tag team.
They're really good, but they're not great.
Best Friends are another one that are kind of climbing the ranking.
Again, right, agreed. But I'm just saying that right now, who are the top five tag teams in the world?
Right
and
now,
the five that I listed.
I would put maybe Aussie Open ahead of, not the Briscoes, the other one you named.
O'Reilly and Fish.
Yeah,
no.
I like Fletcher and Davis better.
You and I just had a conversation.
I know Red
ago
Dragon
where
is
I
great.
said that, in my opinion, while the Bucks are the greatest tag team of all time, if I had to choose between them and watching Fish and O'Reilly, I would choose Fish and O'Reilly almost every time, and you agreed with me.
Yeah, but I'm liking Aussie Open so much better now. I mean, I've been watching some of their Defiant stuff, and I don't know. I'm
being very defiant right now with that opinion.
I'm a very big fan of Aussie Open right now.
That's cool.
Very big.
I mean, you're certainly entitled to that opinion. I mean, I haven't seen them an overly amount of times, but I mean,
and Red Dragon.
Those are the five I would take. But even
as much as
go ahead.
As much as I love Red Dragon, God, they're such a good team though too. Can I do a 5 and 5A?
Well, I'm not there to slit your throat right now, so yeah.
Because I just really like Aussie Open, but it's hard to bet against Red Dragon. And of course, I mean, the top three are obviously the top three for a reason. You know, they are almost head and shoulders above everyone else. But it's hard to say anything against the Briscoes, especially with the way that they're gelling lately in these ladder matches and everything. And I'm just in love with Aussie Open. I think they are the next big thing. I also like South Coast Connection. I think they're up in the top 10 as well.
Yeah, and I mentioned the Rascals and the North, and you didn't even blink when I said that. But I mean, I think those.
No, because they are good. I mean, the Rascals though are a little bit like. Is Trey considered one of them, or is it just the other two?
Well, I think Trey's still considered one of them, but I mean, the
ones
that have been in the title matches, I think, are Wentz and I can't even remember the other guy's name right now.
Yeah, I mean, Trey and Wentz are the guys that we like, and then the other guy.
Well, I mean, they're all good, but I think
right,
I think Trey is the current breakout star, and I think Wentz will be the best of them all when it comes down to it.
Yeah, and I can't disagree with that. I mean, Trey is great in singles right now, and I think Wentz has all the tools to be a breakout star at some point. But yeah, you're right. Wentz and the other guy are the Rascal tag team. And then, of course, the North is really, really good. And why is there nobody in Japan right now that I would say would be a good tag team?
Well, I mean, you're huge on Show and Yo, but we've barely seen them this year.
Well, yeah, and had it been any other year, like last year, Show and Yo would have been in my top 5. I thought they were that good. Well, they would have been in my top 10, maybe not top 5. And with KES breaking up, that's another one. And I can't really say any tag team from MLW is there. I like the only NWA tag team, what are they? The War Raiders?
No, the
Crimson.
I can't think of them right now.
Crimson and the other guy.
Dax, yeah. Or
yeah. Jax, yeah. I mean, that's a really good tag team. There's nobody else in Ring of Honor other than the Briscoes.
No, I really enjoy the Bouncers, but I wouldn't put them on that level.
No, not in the top. Not that high. No. And it's like I enjoy the Kingdom too, but I wouldn't put them that high. And of course the other not ACH. Coast to Coast is pretty decent too, but not on that level.
I think I saw ACH is facing Adam Cole for the NXT Championship.
Yeah, Ryan told us about that. It's on one of the last.
Okay. Oh, that's where I saw it. Okay.
Yeah, so that's something I've got to watch because I really want to see that. I want to see how ACH is now. Now that he's got a new name and everything. I don't know what it is, but all right.
And like I said earlier about how much I hate Taguchi's ass-based offense, but the thing where ACH does the clap and then he sticks his butt out right in his opponent's faces and knocks him over, that I still get a kick out of.
It's still one of my favorites. Yeah, him tagging with Taguchi and doing that is still one of my favorite moves he does. But all right, so how about next week we rank them?
All right, next week we'll rank them. We'll talk, and we did have this past weekend. I hope I didn't see any spoilers, and I'm going to avoid them for MLW's War Chamber. So we're going to have a lot of MLW to cover next week because we've got the War Chamber. We've also got there was the rematch between Lawler and Fatu to cover. So I'm like 3 weeks behind in MLW, so I'm looking forward to getting caught up on that this week.
Well, yeah, and we're going to rank the tag teams and maybe cover some Ring of Honor since I'm going to try and get some of those shows watched. And coming up this Thursday, I hope it'll be up this Thursday. It probably won't be up till the weekend, but this Thursday we're covering the next ECW show and more Jessica Jones. So get that to look forward to, and that's on our Patreon site. It's patreon.com/Kingdom of Honor. Go there for all of our, if you like the show and you want to help us out so that we can continue to provide content, that would be amazing. Go there and make a small donation, open up a tier, and get exclusive content for every tier that you open up. Also, our Facebook, Facebook/Kingdom of Honor there as well. Just search Kingdom of Honor, you'll find it. Twitter at Regi Co-op and at Zanman. I'm starting now. I'm going to use hashtag KOH instead of hashtag Kingdom of Honor. So put in hashtag KOH, you'll get to all the stuff that we do on there as well. That's pretty much all the socials I want to really get to at this point.
I also want to just talking about our socials. One of our fans, one of a strong LOP radio fan, actually, Kath, CATHE on Twitter at Kath_67. She posted today, my wrestling Twitter is beyond amazing. Great podcasters that love to interact with their listeners, and she tagged me in there. And she did say in many more, so I'm sure that included Jeff there, But yeah, I mean, we really do love when you guys tweet us. Let us know, what you think of the show. Other things that you want us to cover. Recommend matches for us, like Ryan does. Debate me about, Ring of Honor's booking. Whatever you want to say to us on there, we're super happy to listen. I'm not good at looking at my timeline, but if I get tagged in a post, I definitely will read it and respond to it. So yeah, I mean, we definitely love interacting with our fans.
Was it Kath _what?
_67.
I'm the forgot.
So it's CATHE _67.
Yeah, I'm the guy that is the how do you put this? The lost guy on the show. It's Sandman and then me. So, but yeah, I enjoy talking to the fans that we do. So, they're a lot of fun. Ryan, I enjoy all the interaction we get from him. I enjoy all the interaction we get from all the people that we do. So anybody that wants to tweet us, use hashtag KOH. I check that a lot. So, and I'm on Twitter way more than I probably should be because I'm also a football fan and a fantasy football fan, kind of a degenerate daily gambler. So feel free to, I'm on Twitter a lot more than I should be. So feel free to, do that. I will always answer whenever I can.
And make sure you check out all the other shows here on LOP Radio. So tomorrow we have The Global Revolution. On Wednesday we have Sports Entertainment is Dead. On Thursday is Imp's LOP Radio Adventure. On Friday is The Right Side of the Pond. And there might be an Aftershock this coming Sunday, because I'm thinking that Clash of the Champions is Sunday, so stay tuned to see if Steve's able to put together an Aftershock for you guys. If not, I'm sure Imp will. And then we'll be back with you next Monday to talk about Major League Wrestling, which is our current favorite right now. along with
Bef-
the top tag teams in the world, and also talk a little bit about Ring of Honor.
And just for the record, I was just going through my Twitter feed, and I need to give a shout out to Orange Cassidy. That's right, I said Orange Cassidy. As from now, his tweet, and I don't believe this is the real Orange Cassidy, but it could be. But his pinned tweet is, "As from now, I'm making it my mission to meet LOP, Twitter, and internet friends in the future." So, give a shout out to him.
Seriously.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's the real Orange Cassidy, but it definitely has him in the picture. So I'm hoping it is, but he's not a verified account.
Well, he probably just can't be bothered to verify his account if he's a character.
Well, he can't take his hands out of his pocket, so makes sense. But I'm now following him. So Orange Cassidy, if you're listening to this show, hit us up on Twitter. How's
Orange Cassidy spelled?
It's not the same. So I think it's someone different.
Yeah. Is it Cassady?
Yep.
Yeah, that's my boy Hoodie. So.
Is it? Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah, he did Tuesday Night Titans with me for a few weeks after my original partner left. So.
Well, yeah. Damn, that I was all excited for nothing. So.
That's okay. I still want to meet
him.
No,
I'm just saying.
He's over in Ireland, I think, if I remember correctly. So.
Reading his tweets right now, yeah, I definitely want to meet the guy too because he's hilarious.
Yeah. In Ireland, I am coming home. Anyway.
Please don't do that again.
I shan't.
Please don't ever do that again.
Sing on the show or sing that particular song on the show? Because I can't probably sing on the show.
Singing ever. It doesn't matter if it's on the show or not. Just don't do it. Ooh.
Am I ever a dick to you?
All the time.
Wow.
That's why we get along, because I'm a dick to you as well.
The other thing I mentioned earlier, and I know we were doing the sign off, but Jeff had mentioned the shows we have coming up on our Patreon. We don't know for sure if we're ever going to do another comics one because first Marvel decided to do their update to make everything quote unquote more convenient for people a couple of weeks ago, and ever since then Jeff's been unable to get into the Marvel app. So. And
I still can't. It's annoying as all hell because I was looking forward to some more of his Jason Aaron's writing.
Yeah, so we'll have to see when or if Jeff can ever get back in there in order for us to continue that, which sucks because we both really enjoy that shit. So.
Right, exactly.
All right, so I think that's really all we've got. So this is Jeff's. This is Shane saying long days, pleasant nights, and I forgot my own fucking name. And Jeff saying,
"Oh, goodbye."